Hi, ladies. How are you?
Hello. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Hi, my name is Katrina Lloyd. I'm the founder of the Live Free podcast. Today with me, I have Jody Marchand, the founder of Live for Live. Hi, Jody.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. Thank you.
Good. And today we have our special guest, Ashley, joining us today. She's going to be helping out to volunteer. We're so excited to have Ashley
Thank
today.
you so much.
Oh,
You're
thank you
welcome.
so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
I'm excited.
So, Jody, we had the huge Ride Run event back in September. Do you want to talk a little bit about the success of the event?
Oh, absolutely. I'm so excited. I know it seems so long ago, but it was an amazing, beautiful, gorgeous day. I mean, sky blue, perfect weather. I'm so fortunate. For 15 years, knock on wood, no rain, and I say someone's looking out for me here. But and Olivia will always be remembered, which makes me so happy. The amount of participation was absolutely amazing. We had more people this year than we've had in a few years. At the beginning, of course, it was huge because everybody knew the story. It was so new in the town. But I think we added a 1 mile run walk. We call it a fun run. And we have more families, more age groups, because not everybody can run, 3 miles or whatever, or ride their bike for 23 miles. But anyway, it was a great participation, huge amount of work from volunteers such as Katrina herself and among others, and our board of directors just did so much work. So it really was a perfect day. And every year you wonder, is this the last year? And then people are like, this was so great. I've been coming every year, or someone that's new saying how much fun they had. They can't wait till next year. And I'm like, yes, see you then. And of course we had the best the raffle, and with I think every item in the world. That was a blast.
Yes.
And people got into it. So yeah, I had a great time. The DJ, everything about it was
The food,
wonderful.
Kimball
And
Farm ice cream was amazing,
Yeah.
right?
What's that?
Kimball's Farm ice cream with some pizza
oh,
there.
Kimball's ice cream,
Yeah.
yes. We went through a lot of pizza. So free pizza, free Kimball's ice cream. Kimball's has been so kind for years, donating ice cream, and it was amazing, and it just fills my heart because it's going to something much needed. October being Domestic Violence Awareness Month, I'm so happy that we raised money so we can help women get out of dangerous situations. So I hopefully am helping someone avoid a tragedy that many of us have experienced. So yeah, thanks. Thank you to all, really.
Yeah, it was like, I was looking at the data, and it was like over 200 registered and attended the event. I was like, wow. And I was like
Amazing.
manning the merchandise station. I was like seeing people just come in, and they just kept coming, and
Yes,
all
it was
ages.
200 registered, but that was prior, and then that day we had a ton of people. So I know there was. I'm sure there was more than that.
Wow.
I know there was a lot more than that. So yeah, it was great. It was a
Awesome.
beautiful day.
Love it. Right in Westford. And another key thing is like in the center of town in Westford, there's the purple lights, really honoring Domestic Violence Awareness Month. What does that mean to you?
Oh my gosh, no one likes to talk about it. It's not a happy subject. It's not this quick cure or medical. There's research that needs to be done. There's new laws that need to be put into place. That's one of my newer things that I want to talk about. And it's so important to talk about, but yet it's not a happy subject. There is no quick fix. But it needs to be talked about. I read something today that said 1 out of 3 women are killed every day. 1 out of 3 in our nation. I mean, come on.
It's horrible.
How can you? I've seen nothing on TV this month about Domestic Violence Awareness Month, where you see a lot about Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and I am so for talking about that, right?
Absolutely.
Extremely important, but come on. let's get with it. It's so the purple lights that are in Westford Center are amazing. That our town has agreed to that for the month of October. And it just means a lot because it's all about, the color representing domestic violence. And then there's signs out that, Live for Live provides about some of the posters are out about the signs of abuse. And also it's just, the town puts out that they have signs saying it's, Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So that is really important, and I'm very proud that Westford does that.
Yeah, it's amazing. And the fact that we're here today having this podcast, huge thanks to WestfordCAT. I know you want to say thank you to
Oh my
them
gosh,
as well.
the biggest, hugest thanks to
Incredible.
WestfordCAT. We were able to come in numerous times when we were preparing for the event and talking about it. They have been so good about, providing time, being flexible about when we can come in, and the kindest people ever. I have to say thank you to WestfordCAT. I highly recommend anyone that needs their services, they should do it.
Yes, they're incredible. Awesome.
Yeah.
So we have our special guest here today, Ashley. We love, volunteers for Live, and Ashley is just like a great advocate for domestic violence. So Ashley, you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you for having me. Jody and I met pretty recently, and it was just like a breath of fresh air. It was someone that really understood where I was coming from, that had a lot of the same goals and wants and loves and all of the same things that we want to do to help take away the stigma of domestic violence. Jody and I sat for hours, hours and hours, and we would have sat for more hours.
I know.
Tears and hugs and all of the things that I have just wanted to find in someone else that can really kind of give a voice to a lot of us that didn't have a voice. Thankfully, I have found some strength in my own healing that helping others has really helped me heal in a lot of some really tough situations that I've been in. Jody and I talked about some goals that we have for Live, and I'm really excited to kind of jump on board however that looks like, and whether it's, knocking on legislative doors and really speaking out to our state reps and other people that want to know more and just don't know enough. Because when you are in a situation you're in and you're scared, the last thing you want to do is speak out against your abuser. And a lot of us, I think, portray this image that our life is really great, so we don't want that, and it's embarrassing, and it's almost like you're kind of lost in your own world, even though you really want so many people part of your world. So I think our goal together is to really give a voice, take away the stigma, whether we can reach out to schools or bigger organizations and get more money in to really just give the money back to those that are scared to leave. And that's kind of, I think we're on the same page about a lot of things, and we have a lot of really big dreams and goals, and I'm really excited about it, and I'm really thankful you guys had me here today.
Oh, thank you so much. I mean, I agree. I think, I'm just so happy we got to meet. Mm-hmm. I'm so happy that we can provide assistance if needed. And I agree. You have a lot. We have the same goals, and I just had a great time meeting you. And you're right. I could have stayed all day, honestly.
Yes.
And I'm very excited about
Me
going
too.
forward. Katrina, with you as well. I mean, so great to have people with new ideas and a really this passion to move forward based on some our experiences. Like you say, you kind of know, and you know what's needed. And the more I talk to people, the more I'm thinking about the whole system in the courts.
Yes.
And this whole
We've had
issue
lots of
about
talks.
restraining orders and, the difficulty. And then I really need to know more about that end of it. That's one of my passions now, because after some people I've spoken with, they really said it's difficult to get out of a bad situation, and then the court system just makes it even more difficult, from what I'm understanding. Not to say everyone is not compassionate, but it depends who you get in the court sometimes.
I heard
is
something
what I've
recently
heard.
too, and it kind of stuck with me. Someone had said how the abuser gets to stay silent and the victim has to retell the story over and over and over to get someone believe them. So to get someone to hear you and believe you, you almost just get sick of telling your own story. Like, is nobody believing me? Is this really true? Am I crazy?
Yeah.
Because a lot of times most abusers will say about their victim is they're crazy.
Well,
And it gives you that. It does. It gives you that in your own head. Like, maybe I shouldn't be staring. Why am I having to tell so many people? You tell a police officer, then you tell an advocate, then you have to reshare your story, and then you go in front of the court and you talk to an attorney, and then you get questioned. Sitting in a protective order hearing, which sadly I've been in multiple times, you are the one being questioned to make sure that your story is actually factually true, while the abuser is sitting there quiet. Their attorney is questioning you and trying to find a lie or a loophole in your story so that the protective order doesn't stay in place to protect yourself. I think, and we'll get to this, and I think this is where you were going with this too, is so many of our police are such amazing, amazing heroes and men and women that we are so lucky to have. And they're not given the opportunity for education on domestic violence. I've heard from several, just on my own research and talking, that, you know, they watched a video where they had someone come in and do, you know, a speaking engagement, but they weren't forced to go. Or they did a speaking engagement, it was a small training session. I think if we gave the opportunity for police to have more education, to listen to victims, to have the resources at their hands, to kind of give them almost a little checklist of guidance, like this is to what to look for in front of a victim of domestic violence, because when you get there, I have goosebumps, you're scared to talk. So you don't always know the right thing to say. And I think if our officers were given more guidance on how to speak to victims or what to look for or certain questions to ask, I do think a lot more victims would be in a much safer position. And I'm not blaming anyone. I'm blaming society as a whole for making domestic violence this stigma that we don't talk about. So,
right.
yeah.
I think if you went to the police stations, and I think very often they'll say they're trained, and of course I.
Right. What does that look like?
They
What
say
does it look
right,
like?
because you hear stories about. It depends which police officer that you're fortunate to talk with, and which judge you happen to get in the court.
Absolutely.
And that's what bothers me. So you're right. I think training is so important. I have spoken to the police at the academy prior, but I haven't been asked back for a few years, and I think it's important to talk about my story so that
Absolutely.
when you do call 911, and very often, from what I hear, the victim, they'll call, but then they're afraid to talk because, let's face it, the abuser is right there.
They don't have
Or
much
the police
time.
show up and the abuser is standing there and you're standing there and the police officer is like looking at you both, tell me what happened.
And they're
Yeah.
right there, right? The abuser.
Right.
We've heard that before on a previous podcast. Someone had a similar situation. The abuser was right there, and then the police was asking questions, and they're like, I'm okay, like, and they're really not okay. Gave him a piece of paper, and then when the police left, the abuser ripped it up, threw it away. It's
Absolutely.
like, you're done, you know? What do you do?
I think there's so much that needs to be done as far as the laws regarding, from what I'm hearing, I is that the whole restraining order is so difficult because you have to go back again and again and again. I know someone that happened to.
You go back, depending the state, between 10 and 12 days, you do it again. You
Right.
go and tell your story, and whether or not you get an emergency order in place, it doesn't always happen. Even if you get one in place, you still go back 10 to 12 days later, and you have to have an attorney, and you have to do it again. You basically are pleading your story yet again with your abuser present right next to you.
And the thing that I heard too is, in one case, this woman her kids had to write, her kids wrote, one of them was like 7 and wrote something about, why, about their abusive home. 7 years old.
Wow.
And then another daughter, had written something. I think there were 3 girls, and then so when she went back for she had to go back several times to get the another restraining order. And each time, finally she said, my kids are not coming back. She said, they're not coming back. I can't do it to them. They're still in, they still have nightmares.
Oh, lifelong trauma. Childhood trauma lasts a lifetime.
And so why is it so difficult to keep having to get a restraining order? And she was in the middle of a 5-year, I believe she said, but one of the kids turned 18. So now it's another time you have to go back to court. And I think that was the time she said, my kids aren't coming back.
What's always bothered me is that it's kind of like an unwritten golden rule that you have to be able to prove 3 instances where the abuse happened, not just one. One time wasn't enough. You have to show a pattern of abuse in order for a judge to really take a look. So you have to prove fear. How do you prove emotional fear? I would love for some judge or an officer to look at me and tell me, how do you prove fear? So you're almost at a point where you have to wait for something really bad to happen. You have to go through sometimes months, sometimes days, sometimes years of emotional abuse, whether it's degrading you or humiliating you or belittling you. That's not enough. That abuse isn't bad enough. You need to keep proving this pattern of abuse in order to just be protected or just be safe. And for me, it's something, like you said too, we didn't really touch on the family court because I think that's a very scary place for a lot of moms too, is that the judges, like, where are they showing us? Like, where is the training coming from? Where are the resources? I think if we had some sort of plan in place, whether it came from the state level or a federal level, I don't know, but the training has to be there in order to protect families. It really does. And we don't have a standard law of this is the amount of training you get to be trained. There isn't one.
And it's unfair. I mean, even in like the medical community, like if you go to the doctor, they ask, do you feel safe at home?
With your mom sitting right in front of you, or your dad, or your guardian, whoever it is.
Yeah.
Sitting in the same room looking at a child in a very vulnerable place anyways, because it's not a comfortable setting in a doctor's office.
Right.
Yeah, do you feel safe at home?
Yeah.
I'm surprised that they don't. I thought that you were separate when they asked
Not
those
always.
kind of
Not
questions.
when you're adolescent. I mean, as an adult, of course, but adolescent.
No sitting,
Wow.
No.
Wow. So many things that right? There's so
And
many
I think
things
that's what, the goal is to just really get it out there and take the stigma away that being a victim of domestic violence or going through trauma you're not the problem. It's that we don't have enough resources to offer that person, or there's not enough, I don't even know, there's not enough in place to really keep someone safe unless they're just strong enough to walk away. And that's a lot of strength that not everybody is just born with.
Yeah.
Strong enough to walk away, have somewhere to go, have the money to go there, and not be afraid that where they're going, the abuser will find them. Who knows? I mean, there's so many things I don't get.
The isolation of it, like when you're comfortable and that's your home and those are your bills and those are your pets and that's your couch. And to go find safety alone is pretty scary.
Why should the victim I think that's why I want to be able to be more educated about restraining orders. I really, that night when I called 911 and I hung up, I mean, because I was afraid.
You wanted to protect your ex-husband.
I just was afraid, he would be angry and
he would.
And you obviously, and I just, people need to know it's okay to talk about this abuse and not be questioned.
I think you want to know what's on the other line. Yeah, on when you make that phone call, who's answering your call and do they know enough? Like the right questions to ask.
Are you lucky enough to have someone
because you hung up because you weren't so sure they were going to believe you, or that was the right choice to make in that moment, because
I just had fear. I had such fear.
Because the repercussions.
Oh, my God, yeah.
Right.
Yes, because he did have guns, and I knew if the police came, then, he would be so angry about, but whatever, that's, a whole nother story. But,
right.
But I really, it does upset me because I thought, it's almost like saying to someone, someone beat up my kid in school. Well, what did your kid do? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, why is it that the person being abused has to say
they have to give all the answers,
right? Mm-hmm. And like you might have deserved it. You know what I mean?
Why'd you make him so mad, or why'd you make her so mad,
or why didn't you just leave a long time ago? I don't know. This just It's so upsetting, isn't it? Though?
I think our biggest goal, like we keep saying though, is finding a way to give training and offer resources. We can hopefully start making differences in smaller problems that turn into bigger.
I just think really that at least the state needs to look at
Absolutely.
the laws and what they need to do to protect victims and their families.
That's our goal.
That is definitely a goal, and it's really become quite clear after speaking to you and another woman I spoke with about the courts, and it's something I need to learn more about because, unfortunately I didn't get to that position, but I'm hearing stories about the
family court system as a whole. Yeah. Domestic, it's the stigma around domestic violence. I hate to keep saying the word, but it is. I know, and a lot of judges or officers, they don't want to touch it because that's someone else's family. They don't want their name on that either.
Really?
It seems that way. So domestic violence is something that we don't even realize how much it's affecting our children too when we're in this situation, Liv or my children. It's just, we're so stuck in that trauma bond with our abuser that's the only thing we know. And we think we're so guarded and protecting our children when really they're growing up watching it. And
They're learning.
if they can't go to an officer or they can't go to a judge and say that they want to be safe too, then who are they going to go to?
Well, I mean, well, that brings me to something. I think hopefully that they are trusting a teacher at school or their nurse or someone at school that they can talk to, because I think that's, where else is a kid going to go if they have something happening at home that they're feeling isn't okay, or they're seeing their mom get hit or they're getting hit. I mean, there's so many stories. And the thing, too, that's difficult is it's not always physical.
Right. Exactly.
And so how do you prove in court that the control is happening in your home, because maybe you have no access to money or you're not allowed to talk to your mom or dad or
go out with your friends.
Right. Mm-hmm. Or the kids are being emotionally abused. I mean, I hear stories. I just met a young woman that happened in her family, and she left, and she was in foster care and now has become part of that family. Thank goodness that she was fortunate to get into this family. But the thing that's so I don't know how you prove that.
In support groups that I've been into, I've spoken with women, and I felt it myself that it's terrible to say out loud, but sometimes the emotional and the psychological abuse was far worse than the physical abuse. There was days I would take the 10-minute physical abuse over days of psychological and emotional abuse, because that sticks with you.
Yeah.
So do you mind talking a little bit about the days of when you say, or just give a couple examples maybe so people know?
Sure. I think the psychological and emotional abuse is something that usually, not always, but statistically starts first, whether it's isolating you a little bit, but you're isolated from your friends and your family because you think he wants to spend so much time with you all the time, he doesn't want to share with anybody else.
Right. And you take that as like, he loves me.
Lucky me. He's crazy about me. He loves me so much. I'm so lucky. And then it slowly, it trickles down. It trickles down till it's running water, I would say. And it's to a point where I am such a friendly, outgoing, I could talk to anybody, where I became like a shell of myself. I would think to go out for 2 hours with my girlfriend to grab some queso or a margarita or just chat, was it worth it for the days that I know would follow? And most of the time, it wasn't.
Exactly.
So then you start to isolate yourself, and then you do. It's unfair to your friends and family because they think you've changed. You changed. You changed. You don't want to see your friends and family anymore. But that 2 hours out for me, it would be 6 days of pure torture.
Wow.
Why would you go out? Nobody's going to want you. You're fat. You're disgusting. You're this. If you leave me, no one's ever going to love you like I did. Look around this house. Look at all the things that we have. And that emotional torture, and then the ignoring, and then the isolating, it wasn't worth it for me. And it slowly started into a pattern where I didn't want to be the fun, outgoing girl anymore. I didn't want to make eye contact with people. I just wanted to be, if we went out, it was just him and I, or I would just stay home. And I slowly started to lose myself. And that actually was probably No, it 100% was harder than any physical abuse that I endured.
Yeah.
Wow.
It changes who you are. I mean, I grew up in a very emotionally abusive household.
It sticks with you.
I saw it,
Heard it, felt it.
Everything, my whole life. And even as a kid, I will always jump in arguments like, you can't talk to my mom that way.
I
Like,
bet,
that's not
and
okay.
this is a speculation, I'm sure you can probably remember specific things that were said.
Yeah, 100%. Yes.
But the physical trauma is something I don't remember as much. It's more of a blur. But the words or the degrading or the isolation, I remember every single word.
Yeah.
Every single one.
And that's why it's so important, I think, number one, for, like you say, the police to know, okay, yes, you don't see a bruise. However, knowing, like, just what you're talking about, the signs of all that, all that emotional and control. It's control. It's power and control over who you see, where you go,
Sure is.
where the money's spent. Just control over everything. And trying to do something, they make it so miserable.
Yes.
And then they
Holidays.
turn it around like it's your fault, or the police think it might be. It's just
Narcissism.
it's so
Manipulation.
It's so
Yes.
shocking that this society just will not accept this is really happening. And when you don't want to put up with that emotional and physical abuse anymore, who knows or emotional abuse, or who knows what's going to happen. And that's where the physical very often starts to kick in.
If you get any sort of control or you kind of give on that maybe you could do this on your own, that's usually where the physical jumps in pretty quick.
Exactly.
It's almost like a slap in the face, statistically, realistically, down, like, nope, I need the
Not
control
going
back.
anywhere.
Yeah.
Yes, and that's basically, I believe that's probably what caused what happened to me, is the fact
Standing up for yourself.
There was no way I was going to leave, and no way I was going to get half of the assets. There just was no way it was going to happen. And that's, that's why it's so important for the public, not just the police, the public, to know the signs, because it progressively gets worse. It will never get better. They think, well, if you guys talk it out, or, whatever, go to marriage counseling, it's a known fact. They do not change. It gets progressively worse. Yep. The other thing that you and I both agree on is trying to get into the schools, which, I cannot, the younger the better. If this kid is growing up in a family of emotional abuse or physical abuse, where either just the parent is being abused or they themselves are being abused, come on. Yeah. We need to educate students about the signs. Or they're in dating. There's teen dating where the physical abuse is happening, or emotional, control and jealousy and all that. How is it that we cannot get into schools? So you and I,
Yes. That's
we all are going to work on that, I
Yeah.
think, and that's one of my goals as well, because, I've talked to seniors. The Show
Right.
Protect did allow me to get in to talk to juniors and seniors, which I'm very excited about, and will invite me back, I was told. But, there's ways to talk about it to even younger ages, but maybe had I heard what is abuse, I would have known the emotional abuse I was seeing in my own house and the emotional abuse I ended up living with and experiencing. Right?
I agree.
Yeah, it's a controversial topic. Nobody wants to talk about it.
Scary.
Right.
Yep.
You have health class in school. Kids are learning about their bodies and, having certain conversations. Why can't this be added to that level of conversation at that age? If they're, just growing and learning, that should be a key aspect of this is not okay. Like,
how can you keep your body safe, your family safe, your feelings, your emotions? I agree. I think if it became more educational based, like kind of recognizing symptoms or signs or awareness or safe people to talk to. And I've been an educator for a long time. I do think there's small pieces of it, but I think it's the stigma around it that it's a scary topic and it could bring out emotions.
Right.
And we're more worried about that than actually maybe creating something to give these children to look for, like whether it's signs or if one of your parents is acting this way, it's okay to go to this person. You are not going to get in trouble and you are not doing anything wrong. It's the surroundings around you. And I think if we could get to the right people at the state level, I do genuinely feel like it is a topic that could be brought into schools in a really safe and educational way.
And the schools may say they're talking about it and maybe talking about healthy relationships, but, I'm sure I have, believe me, I'm sure they're doing what they should be doing as far as health class and talking about healthy relationships, but obviously, well, I say obviously, I just firmly believe it's not talked about enough. And yes, you may talk about it a certain way with one, age group and then another, but come on, I know kids in junior high having sex. I know it.
Right.
Let's face it. And so there is a thing as teen dating. Wouldn't you want your child to know it's not okay that you're experiencing, that you're in a relationship that's not healthy, that the person's so jealous you can't go out with your friends, that
you miss proms, or you don't go to parties, or you miss out on events. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, come on. Exactly. Or, or that you're feeling you have to have sex.
Pressure.
And so that pressure, exactly. I mean, there's just so many signs, and yet, so that's why I'm so happy that we can be here today to talk about this, because the public needs to know it's so common in our world, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I think when I think about domestic violence, I think about someone feels unsafe. It's a topic of safety. If we need to target it that way, like, I don't feel safe in this situation, this makes me feel uncomfortable. It's all surrounding the basic level of safety. So if I don't feel safe, I shouldn't have to explain it 5 times on some sort of court hearing or any other matter in front of my abuser. I should have different avenues. If I enter into a marriage and it's like suddenly unsafe, it should be some sort of clause in the marriage, like a get out clause, like immediately if you feel unsafe and this is turning a different direction, this is a opt-in exit strategy, you can get out more quickly.
Absolutely.
We are human beings. We have the right to feel safe.
And you're right, it should be safe first, and then, then there can be the investigation.
Yes.
But safety should be first, and then versus answering the questions and saying it again and again and again, and then having safety put in place.
Yep.
Well, I mean, safety is obviously it's the number one, health and safety of you and your children. What irks me, though, it makes me so angry, is to make it so difficult. From what I'm hearing, I didn't get to that level, unfortunately, but from what I'm hearing is the difficulty about the restraining orders. Why do you have to leave? Why do you and your kids have to leave? They're the guilty party. They're the abuser. Why do you have to... Why is it so difficult to get a restraining order, or to have to go back after 10 days? There's something wrong, and I need to know more about that, because there's something wrong with that from what I'm hearing.
Yeah, it shouldn't be that way. It shouldn't be that difficult. If someone has presented some information that this person is a danger to me, automatic. I mean, how can you question that? I mean, what level of detail do you need to say,
I don't feel safe?
I don't feel safe. Like, I mean, think about it. I think it's like, as we get older, we're, adolescents and we turn into adults. If a kid says, I feel unsafe, it's a different matter, right? They're put over here like, oh, we must hurry up and do X, Y, Z to make sure they're safe. But if it's an adult, you need to prove to me how, and give me 3 examples like you mentioned. Yeah. That's ridiculous. It doesn't make sense.
I think for me, it does circle back a little bit, and it's hard to really place the blame on who's supposed to be fixing the problem. But I do think starting with police officers and judges having resources and education will really help, because there is a lot of us in a situation that even if we don't feel safe, we might not be saying it. I know personally, I have not been brave enough to say I don't feel safe at a time that I should have. And it put me in a really vulnerable state where I was the aggressor and I was the one in trouble until all of my black and blue started coming out. And it made sense, like, oh, okay, why didn't you say anything? Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? And in that moment, I didn't feel like I trusted someone in front of me to say it. So I think if we had more education and resources, you know, like I said, with the judges and the police officers, and they knew the right questions to ask or signs, I think it would be like a 2-part fix. And I think all we can do is keep talking about it and going to legislators and speaking at the state level and finding something that implements it first, so that if there is an officer or a victim that's scared to speak out, or a child, that there's already something in place that kind of gets everyone safe, and then we can fix the problem.
Yes.
Well, I think from what, you know, what you're going through is now.
Right.
You know, and so this is in this day and age.
Yes.
where it's, you know, supposedly the police officers are trained about, you know, domestic violence and that sort of thing. And like I said, I have gone years ago to the graduating class of police officers and told my story. But yet, still, you had an experience where the person, you didn't, it's almost like they don't believe you.
I think
If
the
you don't-
training
right?
is vague. Yeah. So to say, like, what training do they have? Did they take a 4-hour course? Did they watch a video? I mean, I just recently became certified at the University of New England, and that was 42 hours, you know, of coursework. So there was a lot to it, and there was, you know, testing and certifications. That was a full course training. I can't imagine that, you know, every officer is going to be able to complete a full course load. So there should be maybe a designated officer or advocates that are always available. We do have advocates in places at police stations, but they're not readily available.
Right.
The resources are not there to always have an advocate show up at a domestic violence call. That's something I think that would be really helpful, and something that the state level maybe could implement, that if there's a domestic violence call, an advocate, someone that understands, is compassionate, and that is there to fix the problem and not to arrest people and not to get anyone in trouble, not to have stories. I think that could really benefit a lot too. You know, in a situation that I was in when an officer came, I mean, my eye was swollen shut, and I still was like, I'm not saying anything. I'm not saying anything. I'm not saying anything 20 times in a row, which was very evident that I had something to say, and I was scared to say it.
Well, because he was in the room, I imagine.
Right next, yeah. But in that moment, nobody else was there to kind of tell me, like, do you want to step inside? Like, did you know, and of course they don't want to lead your question, but if someone else had been there in that moment, I probably would have said something different than, I'm not going to say anything 20 times in a row.
I feel like in that situation, like, the officer should be trained to remove the potential or, you know,
I mean, they
abuser from the
were
situation.
10 feet away.
I mean, like, make them leave the house, like, physically.
Yeah.
We're leaving, and now we're going to have a conversation. So you can really, you know, at least something.
Or at least in another room.
Something. Yeah.
Because the hospital brings you an advocate right away. And unfortunately, in a situation that I was in, I was ended up hospitalized, and I had a concussion, and I had to have a CAT scan done for the injuries. You know, there was an advocate there in a second.
Thank goodness.
From Bridges. But,
Amazing.
you know, an advocate, I think in situations like that really is something that we should probably talk about more. And how do we implement that? Where do those resources come from? You know, safety for, and it's not just women, men, women, children, and family,
Right.
domestic violence. Like, where can we get those resources from, and how do we implement them in, you know, in schools or police or, you know, family court system? Because there's advocates, but sometimes there's one to, you know, an entire station, or one to a whole courthouse. Not, you know, I think that is actually really important, something that the resources, like, where does that come from? I'm not sure. But that would be something I think very helpful, because I don't think the reality of training every single police officer and every single judge is realistic.
Yeah.
Well, now I know where I'm going to go. I'm going to go to the police station and tell them we need an advocate for every call there is.
Right.
Or at least a 911 caller. At least have them have some special certification. They can ask
know,
those probing
Right.
questions.
The signs and the questions are so huge
Yeah.
when you're in a moment where you're already scared. That's why they're there. Something happened. Something
Yes.
happened. Whether it wasn't physical abuse and it was just emotional abuse, something happened for that call to be made.
Yeah.
And the thing is, too, from what I heard anyway, like, for you to have to, from what maybe the police have to be sure you're not someone that's going there saying that you're saying your boyfriend is abusing me, so I need a restraining order. Maybe, obviously there's got to be you got to be sure it's true. Right? So that
Absolutely.
Yeah. But I heard that the numbers of people that go to the police station, the majority, these are real. It's a very small number of people that go and that shouldn't be there, that are lying, basically, trying to get their boyfriend or girlfriend out of the house. You know what I mean? So that the numbers are very small. So in other words, you got to believe what you're hearing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, there's lots of calls. I was doing research earlier for the grant application I'm working on, Jody, for Live. And Massachusetts-wise, like over 23,000 calls for domestic violence in the year 2023. That's huge.
Yes.
That's nothing to just like, that's no big deal.
Right. I mean, I have goosebumps when you say that. But right, the reality is like how we obviously are not going to have 23,000 advocates available. So like, 23,000 calls where someone is available, but if someone was always a full-time available, I do think maybe we wouldn't have 23,000 calls.
Yeah, exactly. Something, it has to be small steps we can make to make a difference and remove the hiding of domestic violence. Like, I feel like it's like a very hidden thing. Like,
it's embarrassing. I'll be completely honest. Yeah. It's embarrassing.
Why? What is embarrassing? I'm curious. I mean,
I think for someone else to not know that, or to know that you weren't strong enough to walk away, or that you're not strong enough to let that happen to you. I've been in a situation, and it's a very friendly situation where, like I've just heard, people joke or women talk about it like, oh, I could never let that happen to me. Oh, I would never be with somebody like that. I don't think many of us choose to be with someone like that or want to be in that situation. So I think it's almost like an easier said than done. I think you don't want other people to think that of you. I think that's where the, I guess, embarrassing thing I'm saying is that you don't want to not be strong enough for yourself. Or your children.
Yeah. I mean, I hear that a lot about embarrassing, and again, I get so angry about that because I think, what? I mean, I'm not saying I don't get angry at the person saying it. I'm just angry that society would make someone feel that way. Do you know what I mean? Because they don't want to talk about it, or they're assuming there's like, why didn't you just leave? Easy. And also, it doesn't start out that way very often.
Not.
The person you meet, I mean, when I met my husband, it was a blast. Go out for dinner, have fun, meet new friends. But it's just, right? You agree with that?
Absolutely.
I mean, it just gets progressively,
or sometimes slowly. I mean, I think... Yeah, I think that's why I say embarrassing. It's more just because you're mad at yourself.
Right.
I give the best advice to everybody else. I don't give it to myself. There's many situations or support groups that I've ran or had conversations or helped other families. And sometimes I go home and I'm like, that was really good advice. Why can't I take that for myself? I think that's why I think I say embarrassing, because I just wish that a lot of us that have been in traumatic situations, whether it's for our children or ourselves, you're just kind of mad at yourself and you wish that you could be stronger in that moment.
I get that.
Yeah,
for sure. I think, yes, it is. And here's the thing. I mean, it obviously it doesn't start, well, I don't think it starts out for people with physical abuse, let's say. And as we were saying, it gets progressively worse. And the thing is, it starts out fun, and they may be, it may be great at the beginning, but obviously if you're not educated about the signs, and they act a certain way, and you think it's okay, but yet you're not sure, you're probably right if you're not sure that it's not okay. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So it's upsetting to me that that people aren't educated, that we're not getting into schools because things aren't starting out just one. I mean, it may seem like they're wonderful, but now looking back, you realize they weren't so wonderful.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know what I'm trying to
Yeah.
say?
Yeah, and it's good to trust your instinct. Like,
Yeah.
as soon as something
Yeah.
feels a little off, it's like, I feel like sometimes we can, like, question, like, kind of, like, talk ourselves out of it. I don't think that
Or
would
they
happen,
make-
or that's not
Right.
that big of a deal, or something.
He
Or
didn't
they
mean
make
that.
you feel
Right.
they
I was
talk
kind
you
of
into it.
grumpy.
Right.
Yeah.
You make
Well, they
excuses.
turn around like it is your fault there was
Right.
an argument, or it's your fault they acted a certain way. Or,
Why'd you
know,
say that? Or why'd you look like that? Why'd you give me that look? Why were you this?
And I
Yeah.
didn't say it that way. I mean,
Yeah.
and so really, it just that's why education it's huge.
I think, yeah, and it just like removing that stigma, because it's not just
Yes.
women and children, it's men too.
Right.
I've met a lot of fathers along the way, just in my own kind of social media platforms and talking with others. You know, it's even for them, you know, for a man to come out against a woman is embarrassing too.
Oh, right.
I think, you know, removing that stigma, having conversations, and kind of just giving a voice to the voiceless is what I feel like is our biggest goal, and what we can do to kind of maybe get into the schools or get at the state level, you know, just putting that voice out there that it's not an easy topic, and we know that, and it makes people uncomfortable, but how uncomfortable are the victims in the situation?
Yeah, I'm glad you said that about men as well.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
And we can't ignore that.
And families, it just affects families as a whole. Domestic
Yeah.
violence doesn't affect the abuser and the victim. It affects their friends and their families,
Right.
because then everyone feels uncomfortable, or
Right.
doesn't know the right thing to say, or doesn't know if they should step in, or if it's
Yeah.
their place. I know for me, it's definitely affected my friends and family, because nobody knows how to talk about it.
Right.
I think that I hope that friends or family, if they see it and they think something's not okay, and you're in the family member or friend's relationship, and if you're feeling something isn't looking good, or you know what I mean, like I think it's important to let them know how you feel if you can. You know what I'm saying? Like, maybe had more people said to me, you know, you know.
And I think talking about it, like you said, if we were at the school
Yeah.
level or somewhere, and just talking in general out loud will give maybe other people, whether it's your aunt or your uncle or a friend, kind of those signs to look for, and maybe asking questions, because I know personally I wouldn't probably reach out to many people to ask for help.
Yeah, it'll help to normalize the conversation.
Yes.
And that's uncommon currently, and it shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you so much for coming on to
Absolutely.
our show today. And I think we talked about a lot of different subjects, but everything that's needs to be talked about. And I'm happy we can, during Domestic Violence Awareness Month,
Me too.
talk about various signs and things that we need to look at as far as changes in society. And I just will always say, please remember the liveforlive.org. And if you need help, or you know someone that needs help, please let us know. We are here for you. I'll talk on the phone with you. We'll give you money to get out. I mean, please know that liveforlive.org, we are here.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So glad you are.
Thank-
Thanks, Jody.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much for
you.
having me too.
Very
You're
much.
I'm excited about the changes we can do together.
Yes.
I agree.
Love
We'll talk
it.
again.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.